Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Knights Roundtable. It is me, your host, Nick Iricchio, and we are doing the show Han Style today. That is right. The wonderful co host of mine, Dalton Burdett, needed to take the day off, but I'm sure he is very nervously watching from the live chat. But, we're going to see how this goes, so you'll have to give me a little bit of leeway here. It's my first time streaming, and normally Dalton is the one who runs the show and switches, so we're going to see how that goes. But guys, don't worry. We have an excellent show for you today. We're talking everything from A24 acquiring some new IPs. There's a new Carrie series that's in the works with a surprising person and team attached to it. We have a major update on the Magic the Gathering movie, which we've talked about before. Uh, Dune 3 is finally picking up their villain thing there, and the Oscars have finally added a stunts category, so we're going to go all into the details on that and much more on this channel. So thank you for tuning in. And as always, Dalton is already in the chat saying, "You're doing great, sweetie." So we appreciate him saying that. We're going to cut over now to my handy dandy PowerPoint because I need that, and that's how we're just going to do this. Where the hell is the slideshow button? There it is, folks. There we go. We're cutting to this now. A24 is looking to remake a surprising movie, and that is Bloodsport, the iconic movie from the 80s starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, where you may have seen tons of iconic images of him doing the splits and so on and so forth. But A24 is looking to be involved as they are in final negotiations to take on that IP. The idea of a Bloodsport remake has been a while. That's been something they've been trying to get off the ground for a while, starting in 2011 with a failed attempt at it. I think there was a spin-off of the series, but I'm not too positive. I think it was like Kickboxer or something along that. I do want to report, though, the the Jeff Snyder newsletter, was the first to report this. However, that is behind a paywall, so our source here is Emma Mania. But I want to report that Jeff Snyder did that first. And the idea is that the producers want to completely reboot this franchise. They want to take it in a new creative direction, as you could expect from, A24. And they're looking to bring in a elevated action director, whatever elevated action means. I think just make good action. And a hot young actor. So there's a number of staple you can pull from, except half of them are already in Dune and the Odyssey and so on and so forth, and Warfare, which we saw. That was okay. Pretty good. But does this follow a lot of reports, and really this is sort of the main crux of the topic, right? This is following reports that A24 really wanted to dip more into IPs and having those intellectual properties. It's something that they want to support and elevate indie directors and allow them to take these big creative swings. But bottom line, at the end of the day, they are still a movie studio, and they need to also be concerned with their bottom line. Dalton says, hot young actor like Michael Cera. Yeah, that is the hottest, youngest actor there. But, this follows the reports of A24 also doing the Crystal Lake series, which is just rounding out its cast with Linda Cardellini attached to be starring in that project, which we've spoken ad nauseum about on previous episodes. But, I think there's a lot of people that can go in there. But what I want to do too is I want to break down a little bit about Bloodsport. While I don't have anything to talk about on this topic, as I have never seen the movie, I still think it's important to talk about the news because that's why we're here and why we do this for you guys. Bloodsport remake, A24 hoping to revive Jean-Claude Van Damme classic because it works so well for Kickboxer. See, so that was the spinoff there. According to the Insider, in addition, producers are expected to completely reboot the property and find an elevated action director along with a hot young actor. They go into that remakes are all the rage these days, with Roadhouse featuring Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor being a prime example. And I think that is a great prime example because we just announced on the show, I think last week, that a sequel is officially moving forward. So clearly Amazon is doubling down on their remakes in that regard, and we're going to get to a future story there that involves Amazon in a minute here. But Roadhouse came in clutch, and I think that is important. And also, what I wanted to do too was just sort of break down what the movie is that we're working with here. So, Bloodsport is a 1988 action movie, B action movie specifically, according to IMDb, and really starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. A bunch of people I don't know, and Forrest Whitaker. I thought it was important to point out that it's Forrest Whitaker. Movie has a 6.8 out of 10, which is really what I really wanted to bring up on as an IMDb. I wanted to see sort of critically how this has been hailed by audiences and users alike. So sitting at 6.8, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Forrest Whitaker. Rotten Tomatoes is a 48% with only 29 certified reviews, and it has a popcorn rating of 74%. So critics hated it, audiences love it, which means it's probably pretty solid. U.S. soldier Frank Dux, Jean-Claude Van Damme, has come to Hong Kong to be accepted into the Kumite, a highly secret and extremely violent martial arts competition. While trying to gain access into the underground world of clandestine fighters, he also has to avoid military officers who consider him to be AWOL. After enduring a difficult training and beginning a romance with journalist Janice Kent, played by Leah Ayres, Frank is given the opportunity to fight. But can he survive? It is exactly what you'd expect from an 80s Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and you know what? Can we be mad at them for that? Overall, the critics' consensus, this is where it all began for the Muscles from Brussels, which is a badass nickname. But beyond Van Damme's athleticism, Bloodsport is a cliched, virtually plotless exercise in action movie recycling. Now, see, the recycling, I know we had a lot of iconic action movies coming out of the 80s, but I feel like I always hear Bloodsport being mentioned in that regard, in that pantheon, for better or worse. I think it is really a movie that has taken on quite a bit of a cult following. But one I like to look at, right? Tomato, you get the critics and everything like that. I like to look at Letterboxd, because that's where the true cinephiles lie. And this has a 3.4 amongst fans. That's pretty solid here. Looking at the top, see the reviews from friends. Kit Lazar says, "This is just what bros do. Anytime someone wonders why I haven't seen an important movie, I tell them how many times I've seen Bloodsport. It's a lot. Awfully acted piece of Belgian cheese with too many muscles and people doing splits whenever they get the chance, fighting in ridiculous styles, bashing each other's skulls in, hitting every trope imaginable in the worst kind of way. I've now seen it 7 times." So this really does appear fucking masterpiece, 4.5 stars, and that's a recent review. Someone's just discovering Bloodsport. This really does seem to be just a case of everyone having a good time with it. And to me, I think that's where some of the best movies lie. A movie from the 80s that I love that I would not say is good is Big Trouble in Little China. I think that is a bad movie, but I love it so much. It is so much fun. It is obviously directed by John Carpenter, which I believe I did that right. John Carpenter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that is one of my favorites of his movies. I have a great time watching it. I watch it probably at least once a year, if I had to guess. Kurt Russell's amazing in it, but I think it seems to be that vibe. People kind of just gravitated in that way toward Bloodsport. Hold on, we have a few comments here. Thank you for explaining, because I had no clue what Bloodsport is. LOL, Hannah Heiler. You're welcome. That's why I'm here. Kylixer says, Nick on the mic. Let's go. Let's go indeed. Dalton Burdett, he is watching in the live chat. I thought Bloodsport was just a euphemism for darts. I don't know that reference. And Big Trouble is great. It is great. I may have misspoke because I'm nervous. I have it on Blu-ray right there, and the minute they come out with a 4K, I probably will buy that. Or wait for you to buy it, and then I'll steal it. But guys, what do you think about Bloodsport being remade? Have you seen the movie? What do you think? Do you think it is a good idea? Let me know in the chat, and let me know who you think would like to see direct and or act in it besides Michael Cera, as the chat is saying, which I would pay a lot of money for. But with that down, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is this. A Carrie series has officially been greenlit, but the inclusion of the writing team, the directing team, and the studio behind it may surprise you. Prime Video has officially greenlit the series, and Mike Flanagan from Haunting of Hill House and Dr. Sleep is set to write, executive produce, and showrun, and he will be directing a handful of episodes. The project will be about 8 episodes total, and I believe the writer's room's already been underway for quite some time, but no release date is set and casting is underway. Now, guys, this is also, unfortunately, you're going to see this trend a lot. This is also something I really don't have a lot to say about. I've never seen the original Carrie, nor have I seen the remake of Carrie. But we love Mike Flanagan on this show, so I always think it's important to include them. But I think there's also a lot more interesting topics to talk about with this. So we're going to cut over here now to the Deadline article. Carrie TV series from Mike Flanagan, officially greenlit by Prime Video. The TV series is based on the Stephen King novel Mike Flanagan, Follow the House Usher, Midnight Mass. As the writer, executive producer, and showrunner, the series came together quickly, with Flanagan opening a writer's room in late fall. Okay, so they do have the writer's room underway. The 8-episode project has also been quietly casting, with relative newcomers Summer H. Howell in negotiations for the title character, Carrie White, and Sienna Ongdong from Resident Evil, set as her nemesis, Sue Snell. Carrie is described as a reimagining of the story of misfit high schooler Carrie White, who has spent her life in seclusion with her domineering mother after her father's sudden death. Carrie finds herself contending with the challenges of attending high school, a bullying scandal, and the emergence of mysterious telekinetic powers. The series will be produced by Amazon MGM Studios. Now, what I also think is interesting of this, if we look at Mike Flanagan's work, right? Life of Chuck is the big movie that's coming out this year from him, which has won a bunch of awards at festivals, including a type prize at, I believe it was the Palme d'Or prize. And people are talking very highly of that, about that being an Oscar contender potentially going into this year. And it is a Stephen King novel, as I believe a lot of the other work that he's done is based on Stephen King novels. So I think that Mike Flanagan, one, while being able to do both sides of the coins of Stephen King, right? The horror and the optimistic, the nice, the sweet, the Life of Chuck side of Stephen King, I think that they have a great working relationship here. What I find most interesting about this, though, is if you look at his, the stuff he's worked on, right? Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Midnight Club, Follow the House of Usher. These are all Netflix series. Now, granted, it could just be a rights thing with Amazon having the rights specifically to Carrie, but I think it is interesting that he was able to move away and was moving away from working Netflix. I imagine that it probably isn't a bad thing. I think all of his series have been great on Netflix. So I could see them having that continuing relationship, but I just thought that that was worth noting. And as well, if you look at sort of just what he's been doing, the Carrie will be the 8-episode series. Where was it? I had it somewhere. Oh, that he's also working with DC as well. So he's sort of all over the place when it comes to working with DC Studios, as he's going to be producing, and he wrote a Clayface movie for DC Studios. So I am interested to see how that goes. But again, as I said, I don't have much to talk about Carrie, so we're going to go more into the IMDb of it all. Hold on, looks like we have a few comments in the chat here. Hannah Heiler says, Mike Flanagan's supremacy. Mike Flanagan's supremacy. Indeed, Dalton and Kylixer both say, please watch Carrie. I assume we're referring to the one I have pulled up now, the 76. I've heard the Chloe Grace Moretz one is not great. Dalton says, Brian De Palma directed Carrie, if that helps. It does help. Brian De Palma is a great director. Dalton says, I wish Netflix would release his shows on physical media. I wish that the streamers would release most shows on physical media. I have quite the collection behind me here, but, that is just something that we're going to have to get through. So, Carrie, 1976, sitting at a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, directed by Brian De Palma. There we go, Stephen King, naturally. Starring Sissy Spacek, Pipey Laurie, Amy Irving. John Travolta is in Carrie? This changes a lot of things. But again, sitting at a 7.4, which is good. And for those who may not know, Brian De Palma, just while we have it pulled up there, he has directed such classics as we're going to go to the beginning, because lately, Carrie, Phantom of the Paradise, The Fury, Dressed to Kill, Blowout, Scarface, Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark, The Untouchables, Raising Cain, Carlito's Way, and the first Mission Impossible, and Snake Eyes, which is a great Nick Cage movie. Everyone should watch Snake Eyes, but also everyone should watch Mission Impossible, because that's just great. I actually did not know he directed the first Mission Impossible. I am very excited to revisit this series, knowing that now. But then we'll cut over there to the second Carrie, the reboot from 2013, starring Chloe Grace Moretz, Julianne Moore, Gabrielle Wilde, and Portia Doubleday. That one is sitting at a 5.8 compared to the 7.4. So a bit of a dip there. People typically don't like horror remakes, it seems, unless they're Evil Dead. Sitting at a 5.8. But now we're going to look at the letterboxd of it all. The original Carrie's sitting at a 3.9. Quite high, especially when you compare it to the 2.5 of the 2013 movie. But I digress. That's really all I have to say about Carrie at this time. I think it's cool that Mike Flanagan's getting so much work, and I love the work that he's been doing. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for the concept of a Carrie series? Do you think it should just be a movie? And if so, do you think that Mike Flanagan's the right person to be helming this project? Let me know in the comments as we go on to our next topic. But first, it looks like we have some more comments in the live chat. Dalton, Untouchables is a GOAT movie. I don't think I've seen Untouchables now that we're talking about it. I may have been thinking of Replacements, which is a GOAT movie. And with that, my lightsaber just turned off there, so that's off for the rest of the show. But guys, we have a major update on the Magic the Gathering movie. We recently reported on the show that a Magic the Gathering movie was indeed happening. But now it looks like it's gaining a bunch of momentum here, and they are circling a director. And that director is Matt Johnson, who directed BlackBerry, which is a great movie, and I really liked it. Recently, his more recent project is he has a movie coming out called Nirvana, the Band, the Show, the Movie, which premiered at South by Southwest, which Neon actually picked up, and it's based on a series he did called Nirvana, the Band, the Show. And now that show's getting a movie, hence the name. No word yet on what the take on the material will be or the writer. But what I have seen and what I can speculate on is Matt Johnson has also written all the movies he's directed. Now, I know this is a big studio IP, so it is possible that, maybe he's going to be a little more hands-off in the writing, or he'll want to be heavily involved. But I thought that BlackBerry, one of the strongest elements of the movie, besides the main performance from Glenn Howerton, I thought was the direction. I thought Matt Johnson did a very great job helming that hectic mania of the movie. And we're going to cut over to the Deadline article now to talk about it more. Following Neon's acquisition of his South by Southwest title, Nirvana, the Band, the Show, the Movie, Matt Johnson is in pole position to direct his first film out of the live-action Magic the Gathering universe being assembled by Legendary Entertainment and Hasbro Entertainment. The studio declined comment, which typically means it's true. We hear they've not yet made a formal offer to Johnson, as it's very early days, but he is the choice to direct. No word yet on the take on the material, no who will be scripting, although I think Matt Johnson will probably end up writing as well. Legendary and Hasbro announced their intention to launch a Magic film and TV universe, kicking off with a feature project in February. Marking Hasbro's first $1 billion brand, Magic the Gathering is recognized as the world's first trading card game, having connected with more than 50 million fans of all ages worldwide since 1993. In the game, players take on the role of planeswalkers, powerful spellcasters who summon creatures, cast spells, and use artifacts to defeat their opponents. Over the years, it's expanded into a global phenomenon with competitive tournaments, professional play circuits, and a thriving secondary market for rare and powerful cards. The game's ongoing storyline, set in a multiverse of fantasy worlds, has been expanded through card sets, novels, and even crossover collaborations with franchises including Dungeons & Dragons and Lord of the Rings. So, what I want to talk about specifically with this is, and why I wanted to read that long description, is I am not a Magic the Gathering player. I am, however, a D&D player, which is going to be sort of my into this. There's a void left, because D&D, the movie, to me, was a great success. While not financially, I think that audience had a lot of time to discover it, and I think that audiences really liked it, critics really liked it, and I think that was an overall success, but there has been no momentum on a sequel to that or anything else set in that expanded Dungeons and Dragons universe. So I think that it's a great opportunity for Magic the Gathering to come in and really take that. Now, granted, that's a little bit of infighting, because I believe Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast own D&D as well, so they're really pivoting toward that. But I think there's a lot of interesting takes here. I'm curious if it'll be sort of like D&D, right? where maybe it's just set in the universe and you're following the characters. But with the hectic mania of like BlackBerry and Matt Johnson's directed, I think I would be interested in almost seeing a take that's like the competitive world of the game itself, like a high stakes card tournament focused on Magic the Gathering. And maybe there's even an opportunity to do some sort of multimedia approach, right? Where maybe there's, as you're watching the battles, those are actually animated and you're cutting into the world, watching the battles in real time, sort of cutting back and forth. I think could be an interesting take on it. Um, but let's go into a little farther, right? Matt Johnson uh, is an actor and director. It looks like he also stars in the Nirvana the Band the Show. But let's look at specifically what he's directed: Nirvana the Band the Show, the movie, Blackberry, Matt and Bird Break Loose. So he doesn't really have a whole lot under his belt here, but I thought Blackberry was quite the success. But if you look at his scores here, I mean, 8.5, 7.3, 7.4, 8.8. I think he's in a great position to really take this franchise and this IP in an interesting direction. And I think that's what's important to note here. I thought Blackberry was a very interesting take on sort of what these corporate biopic movies could be. I don't know if it was doing anything to necessarily break the mold, but I think stylistically it was visually unique. And the concept Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, I think he's a quirky guy, and I think that could fit right in there. And then here is Magic the Gathering's Wikipedia, but the article covered what we were going to break down in it, so I don't need to go into that more. But, oh, hold on, we got some comments here. Hannah says, what movies have you seen? I've seen Con Air and Clue and Jungle Cruise and The Muppets Christmas Carol. And to me, I really think that's all you need. Dalton says Blackberry rules, justice for Howerton. Justice for Howerton indeed. I thought Glenn Howerton gave a great performance in that role, and I thought he should have been nominated for a supporting actor. D&D movie was so much fun. D&D movie was so much fun indeed. I recently rewatched it and loved it just as much as when I first watched it. But what do you guys think about a Magic the Gathering movie? Is that something that interests you? Do you wish that maybe they would progress more with the D&D movie on it? And what take do you think you're going to see with it? And should I play Magic the Gathering? That I would be interested in. I have enough hobbies as it is, but what's one more? But guys, with that down, we're going to move on to our next topic while I take a sip of water real quick. And that is that Dune 3, aka Dune Messiah, is really ramping up production here. And they're having actors circling the villain role, and that villain is Robert Pattinson. That's right, guys. Robert Pattinson is circling the Dune 3 villain role. Now, I am going to butcher the pronunciation as I've never read the Dune books, nor do I know how to speak well. But he would be playing the villain Scytale? Skytail? Could also be Satale. Maybe he's a little Italian there. He is a Teliaxu face dancer who executes a plot to dethrone Paul Atreides in Dune Messiah. Scytale's conspiracy includes Spacing Guild navigator Edric, the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother Mohaim, and the Princess Aurelian, Paul's consort. Unlike face dancers depicted later in the series, Scytale appears autonomous, and his high-level dealings with other conspirators suggest a certain rank and level of trust amongst the Teliaxu, and the plan is to shoot this summer. So my question is, when the fuck are we getting Batman 2? Robert Pattinson is booked solid. Obviously, he just had Mickey 17, which after a very short theatrical run is available for your on-demand viewing at home. But I mean, he was recently cast to join in Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie. And now this. And these are big movies and big parts, especially if he's going to be the villain. And now, granted, I know that there's been all these hiccups with the Batman Part 2, and the script is not, I don't even think the script is finalized and turned in yet. But, that has a 2027 release date, I think. So they need to start ramping up that soon. Let's see, I think the article pretty much covers everything. Even as Denis Villeneuve puts the finishing touches on the script for the next installment in the Dune franchise, the director already has his sights on a new edition. The film already features an A-list ensemble that includes Timothée Chalamet, Florence Pugh, Zendaya, and many of the other supporting cast are expected to return. I believe as well, Anya Taylor-Joy will have a more sizable part in this role, as I think she does in the novels, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, what a stacked cast of talent, though. Timothée Chalamet, Florence Pugh, Zendaya, Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert Pattinson. It seems like every actor in Hollywood's either in this or The Odyssey, and Robert Pattinson plans on being in them both. Here's the side tale description, which I think we already pulled from. But, I mean, I think it's just an interesting cast. I mean, I think that he could play a great villain. Don't get me wrong here, and I would love to see him. I think that him and Timothée Chalamet are great actors. So to see them going toe to toe, I think they were in a movie called The King together. That was a Netflix movie. I never got a chance to see it, but I think Robert Pattinson's a great actor, and any opportunity for him to do a weird voice is an opportunity I think he must take. And so he's just going to be a weird little freak in this movie, I assume. I think the funniest thing would be if he's just completely normal. Like everyone's like, "Oh, Robert Pattinson's in Dune. He's gonna be a little freak, isn't he?" And he's just like, "Hey guys, fuck you, Paul." We got some more comments going on here. Hannah says, "Let's play Magic the Gathering." I'm down. Water or on wine Friday? Yes, it is water on wine Friday. He's referring that I usually have wine on the show on Friday, but that's when I just get to co-host and glide. I'm switching things. I'm talking nervous. So we're sponsored today by Polar Cranberry Lime Seltzer. We're not actually sponsored. I need to clarify that, but that's what I'm drinking. Hannah says Robert Pattinson. No way. Hannah is a big Robert Pattinson fan for those that may not know or can't tell by her all capitalizations here. Dalton says maybe the real Batman 2 were the friends we made along the way. And Hannah says, I hope Robert does a silly little voice in Dune 3. Me too. But what do you guys think of Robert Pattinson potentially joining Dune 3? Do you think he's a great fit? If you've read the books, do you think he's a great fit for this character in specific? If not, who do you think should play it? Let me know in the chat below as we move on to our final and main topic, and that is that, guys, the Oscars has finally added a category for stunts, which is a long battle that we can go into the full history on here, but I think it's important that it's finally happening. So this will begin with the 100th Academy Awards and will be for films released in 2027. This also follows the recently created Casting Oscar, which will begin with movies actually this year. We're going to cut over to the article now to read in a little more. The Oscars are finally recognizing stunts with a new category, something long desired by stunt people but never realized until now. The Board of Governors of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences said Thursday that they are creating an annual competitive Academy Award for achievement in stunt design. Quote, since the early days of cinema, stunt design has been an integral part of filmmaking. Academy CEO Bill Kramer, Academy President Janet Yang said in a statement, we're proud to honor the innovative work of these technical and creative artists, and we congratulate them for their commitment and dedication to reaching this momentous occasion. I agree. I think that stunt work has been such a pivotal part of movie making, especially more recently. So I think it's about time that they finally get recognized because it's hard work and it's dangerous work, and a lot of times they're not given the credit that they deserve. Category rules for eligibility and voting for the inaugural award will be announced in 2027 with the complete 100th Academy Awards rule set, the specifics of the award presentation, yada, yada, yada. Here we go. For decades, proponents of the annual stunt category have met with various AMPAS administration, but to no avail. More recently, John Wick and Deadpool 2 director David Leitch, who started as a stuntman and a stunt coordinator, had been among the most vocal in urging the creation of a new category, finally has happened. Though there have been special Oscars in the past, most recently one to Hall Needham. In 2013, veteran stuntman Yakima Canute also received an honorary Oscar in 1967, and here's a quick quote from David Leitch. Stunts are essential to every genre of film and rooted deep in our industry's history. From the groundbreaking work of early pioneers like Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin to the inspiring artistry of today's stunt designers, coordinators, performers, and choreographers. So I think ultimately that this is for the best. I think it's a great idea. It's something that people have been long wanting. And I think it's important that it is finally happening and that they are getting the recognition that they deserve. But here's what's more important. And I'm going to actually cut to a single for this. Why are you doing this after the last Mission Impossible movie is coming out? Why are you fucking Tom Cruise like this? It's so important. Those are the staple of action movies. Tom Cruise is literally hanging off planes, as you can see in our thumbnail on this very video. He is going above and beyond with his stunt coordination every time, upping the ante. And now, once he's finally done, they're now they're doing the Oscar. I I got heated there for a minute. I'm sorry, but I think it's important. I think that Tom Cruise has been one of the biggest proponents for stunts in movies, as well as just movies in general. And I think that he should be honored in some way in regards to that. I think maybe there should be a retroactive Oscar maybe given to him, or perhaps a lifetime achievement, or let him be the one to maybe announce and hand off that first Oscar. I think would be a nice moment. But it's crazy that Tom Cruise, I mean, maybe they'll do another Mission Impossible movie just to get him out of this. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning Part 2 maybe. But, I think it's just crazy. Let's see some comments here. I hope they give Tom Cruise an honorary stunts Oscar. I agree. I think he deserves it. Dalton, you think John Wick will delay release to 2027 so it will try to win? That is potential. Dalton, go off king. Indeed, maybe Tom will present the Oscar. I think so too. I would love to see it. But what I want to sort of close the show out doing, what I think might be interesting here, is let's look at what's on the calendar. And Nick keeps copying my comments. Indeed, I do. Same brain. We have one brain cell shared, and you have half. We're going to look at what is actually coming out in 2027 and what we think might actually win that first Oscar. So we'll go over here to our favorite website, the numbers, which we do the box office on, but I'm never going to try to do that, also because it's Friday, and that is also Dalton's thing. So starting off January 27th, right there, contender, Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Absolutely. Blumhouse event film, Woodwalkers 3, Angry Birds 3. I don't think animated movies are going to creep in there just yet. Untitled Disney film, Universal event film, Warner Brothers event film, DC event film. So we have a DC movie on the docket for 2027. That could probably be a front runner there. We have the live action Legend of Zelda movie. While I think a lot of that movie will probably be CGI environments, perhaps we get some good sword fighting or action stunt choreography as well. I think that a lot of these major studios, especially the ones with these IPs, right, such as a Star Wars or a Marvel or a DC, I think they're really going to be gunning for this because a lot of times they also get overlooked from like a VFX standpoint. Untitled Disney film, Legend of Zelda, Untitled Godzilla Kong New Empire, hell yeah. Avengers Secret Wars. See, to me, I feel like that's going to be the front runner, and I really think that Marvel, now with this announcement, I hope maybe we'll take it a little more seriously, right? Maybe put a little more grit into these action scenes. What we're seeing with Marvel, especially with something like Thunderbolts, right? We're seeing that clip of Florence Pugh jumping off the big tower and everyone being like, they did a stunt, look. And I think that them putting the time and winning a stunt Oscar might get a lot of people more intrigued and more hyped for it. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, again, I don't think that animated movies are going to be in the running for this. How to Train Your Dragon 2, the live action version, that could be a potential front runner there. I know the second one kind of ups the action compared to the first one. Untitled Marvel film, I think that was maybe supposed to be Blade, but that's off the docket. Universal, Warner Brothers, The Batman Part 2. I don't think that's hitting this date. As we just literally talked about on this show, Robert Pattinson is booked solid and the script's not even turned in, and they're looking to get a 2027 release date. Might be a little tight. Frozen 3, Untitled Star Wars movie, Lord of the Rings The Hunt for Gollum. I believe that's a live action one, so that could be. I mean, Lord of the Rings series had such great action in it. I could see that. I really think that these movies, though, are going to now, with this announcement, take a look at their stunts, take a look at what they were maybe going to animate, try to do with CGI, and maybe look to find more ways to do things practically. Even what Dalton said here, are they going to actually delay John Wick? Well, when is the Kane movie going to happen, too? Because I could see that being a contender, if not John Wick 5. Maybe the Kane movie, depending on when that's coming out. But I could see that, especially with Chad Stahelski. I think would be a great first recipient of this award, and to be handed that by Tom Cruise, I think that would just be a great story. Although I could imagine also David Leitch maybe trying to gun in and put something in the 27, as he's been such a big proponent of this moving forward. Um, him being the one to actually receive the Oscar and maybe have Tom Cruise present that to him, and coming from that stunt background, I think could also be a great story. And the Oscars love great stories. We have a few more comments here. Same brain, box office, Dalton, Secret Wars, maybe. Imagine all the Netflix movies going for the Stunts Award. Netflix loves their movies, so I feel like we're going to get a ton of stunts, and elevated stunts coming out of Netflix soon, because God knows they love it. But also, even looking at like Roadhouse, I could see that being a potential contender down the line, depending on when that release. But I think if I had to pick from this list, I think Secret Wars is definitely going to be a huge contender with it, as well as I honestly, I'll say Legend of Zelda and Lord of the Rings right now. I think it really, if Marvel takes it seriously, I think it really is theirs to lose. But Marvel taking it seriously is a whole other question. But guys, I think that that may do it for the show. But first, let me know, obviously, who you think you could see winning this stunt award. What of that list interests you? And do you think it's a good idea, just in general, to have this category? I think it's very important. And thank you guys for being patient with me as I figured out how to navigate this. I may have rambled on, so I do apologize. But I'm happy to have you and have you had tuned in. And stay tuned, as always. Links to all the articles and the sources can be found in our description, as well as to links to all of our social channels and audio versions of the show. If you don't want to see my face or Dalton's face, I get it. And tune in. I think we may have a few reviews coming down the pipe. I'm not too positive of when they'll be there, but they will be coming. And as always, make sure to tune in to our other live show on Monday. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.